Assalamu alaikum and welcome to our program on parts of speech. In English, there are 8 parts of speech. These are noun, pronoun, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, interjection, and conjunction. First of all, we will discuss the idea of noun. A noun simply means name. It can be a name of person or thing. A thing might be a place, for example, London, Multan, Pakistan. It can be quality, for example, truth, happiness. It can even be an action. People, birds, animals, they've got different species, different types. Nouns have got different types too. They're mainly common nouns. A common noun is a noun that is shared by people and things. Look at the word boy. There are millions of boys in the world, so that is a common property. So this is a common noun. Similarly, city. There are thousands of cities in the world, and then country. So boy, city, and country are common noun. They become proper noun, that is the second type, when we change them into the words like Tipu for boy, Charles for boy, Lahore for city, Pakistan for country. And the third type is abstract noun. Abstract means thing that you can't touch, but you may feel. Look at the idea of beauty. Beauty is something which you can't touch, you can imagine of beauty, you can think of beauty. Honesty. You've got the idea of honesty in your mind, but you can't touch honesty. They are not concrete, they are abstract. That's why we call them abstract nouns. And the next type is collective noun. Here you have to be very careful. We Pakistanis often wrongly use these collective nouns. These are the words like crowd. A crowd, if you look at the word crowd, it's a combination of so many people. There's so many people in a crowd. Team. In a team there might be 2 people, there might be 11 people. Army. In an army there are many soldiers. Nation. And nation has got many people. Flock. Birds of flock. Birds of feather flock together. So flock is also a collective noun. What I was saying earlier, we Pakistanis often wrongly use these collective nouns. I would give you one example. Police. We often say police is coming. That is wrong. We say police has arrested the thief. That is wrong in English. In English you should say police are coming and police have arrested the thief. Then we look at nouns from different angles. They're countable or not. If they're countable, we add 1, 2, 3 before these nouns. If not, then we add the measure word. For example, we say some, we say 1 kilo. Look at honey. For example, we can't say give me 1 honey, but I can say give me a bottle of honey. We can't say give me 1 milk. We say give me 1 kilo of milk, 1 liter of milk. There are certain nouns which can't be counted. I've just given an example of example of honey, milk, and the ideas like light and gas. Now these are uncountable nouns, and countable nouns are many around us. Boy, girl, table, chairs, all these things, they are countable nouns. Here again we have to be careful in using certain English nouns, because certain nouns in English may be countable, but they are uncountable in Urdu. Similarly, there are some nouns which can be counted in Urdu but can't be counted like that in English. Look at the word information. In Urdu we can say ek khabar or ek malumat, something like this, but in English it has to be information. We can't say informations like malumat. It has to be information. And the word hair. You have got hair on your head. In Urdu, they are countable, but in English we say his hair is black. In Urdu we say His hairs are black. Bread. The idea of bread is again strange and interesting. In our context, we go to naan bhai, we ask him to give 5 rotiyan, 6 naan, 7 naan. In English, it has to be a loaf of bread or some bread. We can't say one bread, two breads. Similarly, look at the word pants and trousers. First of all, I must give you the difference. Pants and trousers are two different words for the same thing. Americans call them pants and the Britishers, they call them trousers. Pakistani people think that the trousers are the pieces of cloth that we use for trekking, for jogging. No, that is tracksuit. Trousers are pants. But how to use them? We cannot say he is wearing a pant. He is wearing a pair of pants, or his pants are beautiful. Noun is a very common concept, and I think you should be able to recognize a noun in a sentence, and that is quite easy as well. For example, if I say my friend Ahmed lives in Islamabad, you should be able to judge that the word Ahmed and Islamabad, they are two different nouns. I hope the idea is clear. Now we'll move to an easy concept, that is pronoun. A pronoun is a word that is used in place of noun, and you know why? We use pronoun to avoid repetition. I will give you one sentence and I would like you to spot pronouns in this sentence. The sentence is, as soon as my brother met his wife, he told her the news and they came to Islamabad. Now in this sentence, I hope you've got the idea. You have even spotted these pronouns. As soon as my brother, my here is a pronoun, met his wife, again his is a pronoun, he told, he is a pronoun, her pronoun, and they came to Islamabad, they is a pronoun. Now the third part of speech is adjective. Adjective simply means quality. We use an adjective with a noun or a pronoun to add some quality to it. For example, if I say a boy, you may say, which boy? Well, the boy, tall boy. This means when I say the tall boy, I am limiting it in a way and I'm adding something to the word boy. Adjectives, they are used to describe people, things, events. And what you need to do while using an adjective is be careful when you use the degrees of adjective. There are 3 degrees. These are positive, comparative, and superlative. And you should know positive degree, for example, a tall boy can take a comparative form, that is taller. But what happens? You will often hear people saying it is more easy. He is more tall. No, easier and taller. And the superlative form is tallest. And here I would like to tell you how to pronounce this est. In spelling it is est, but you should not say est, it is ist. Imagine as if it were ist. Now listen. Tall, taller, tallest. Hard, harder, hardest. We can't say hardest, biggest. That is awkward, I think. Second thing is when to use more, most, and when to use est. Well, if an adjective is made up of single syllable, we use est. For example, tall, taller, tallest. Big, bigger, biggest. Fast, faster, fastest. But if an adjective, it has got more than one syllable, it takes more and most with it. For example, beautiful, more beautiful, most beautiful. Horrible, more horrible, most horrible. And remember, usually when we use the third degree of adjective, that is superlative degree, we use the. This is the tallest spelling in the city. And second thing, that is quite easy, I think, for all of us, because in Urdu too, we use an adjective before a noun. And in English too, we use the words like tall boy, dark room, big tree, sweet, potato. These are like the words which are used before noun. In some languages, for example French, they use adjective after noun. For example, they would say the sky blue, but in English we say the blue sky. This is the idea of adjective. And one more thing that people often confuse is the adjectives ending with ing, what we call present participle, and adjectives ending with ed, what we call past participle. Now look at the words ending with ing. These are adjectives. For example, amusing, boring, and tiring. These are the adjectives which can be compared with amused, bored, and tired. If you look at these two different types, amusing, boring, and tiring, these are active and they mean having the effect. Boring, it means which has the effect of causing boredom. Amusing, something which amuses you. And the words, these adjectives which end with ed, for example, amused, bored, tired, they are passive and they mean affected in this way. For example, if you say, I was bored, this simply means somebody caused you to become bored. Somebody affected you in this way. And what was that? That was a boring movie, a boring film, which made you bored. This is adjective. Now we'll move to the concept preposition. A preposition is a word that is used with the following noun or pronoun, and why we use to complete the sentence, to complete the sense. The words like in, on, at, into, of, under, beneath, they are all prepositions. Here what happens, we sometimes commit mistakes because we tend to seek help from our mother tongue and we follow those things, we use those things in English. For example, in Urdu we say Khuda par iman, Khuda par yaqeen, but in English we don't say to believe on God, we should say believe in God. Similarly, there are some interesting things. In English they say he's sitting on the bus, but we say, in Urdu we say bus mein. And in Urdu if you say on the bus par, that means something else, Interestingly, that means sitting on the roof of the bus. That is quite common in Pakistan. Similarly, the difference between in and on. If somebody says he's in time, that means before the fixed time. And on time, exactly on time, not late. And then comparison between on and at. You should know we use on when one surface is touching the other. For example, there is a ballpoint in my hand, on my palm, and there is mobile phone on the table. You see, mobile phone is touching the table, so we use on. Now imagine the word at. You can't say, for example, he's sitting on the table. Here you can't sit in the table, you can't sit on the table, so you should say he's sitting at the table. My family was sitting at the table in the hotel. This means they were sitting around the table. In other words, there are some situations where you can't use in or on. Then the choice left is at. Problem is we use English prepositions following the rules of our mother tongue, where we commit mistakes. You must have heard many people saying he belongs from Lahore. That is wrong. He belongs to Lahore, because if you translate the word into your mother tongue, it will give you something else. So speak English with the help of the rules of English language. Now we'll move to the most important concept, that is verb. A verb means doing something, usually doing something. I'll give you some sentences and I hope you can find the verb in these sentences. Sentence number 1, he went to Lahore. So think of an action in the sentence. It is went, yes. Sentence number 2, most people like dogs. Here it is like. The moon rises at 7. It is rises. This means usually we use a verb to talk about an action. Each day we use thousands of verbs in our speech. Goes, comes, laughs, sits, sitting, talking, managing, eating, all these things. This means a verb is mainly used to talk about an action, but that is not all. There are some verbs which show a state. For example, he is a doctor. Now, is here is a verb which doesn't talk about an action. It is showing a state. Sometimes a verb is used to show a change of state. For example, the boy became an artist. This is not an action. This is a change of state from a simple boy who was not an artist into something who was an artist. The verbs in English, they are divided into two main categories. We call them main verbs and helping verbs or auxiliaries. And the auxiliaries are further divided into primary auxiliaries and modals. Primary auxiliaries are to do, to be, to have. And modals are may, might, can, could, should, must, have to, ought to. These are commonly used, and I hope you use them in your daily life. And main verbs are many. Main verbs are, they have certain qualities. Like if you want to change them into past form, sometimes the shape changes with the help of ed. We call them regular verbs. Smile, smiled, talk, talked, name, named. These are the regular verbs. And then there are irregular verbs which either don't change the shape at all. For example, cut, 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 put, 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 hit, 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 or they take a different form. For example, catch, caught, caught, go, went, gone. You know, verb is basically used to show the difference of time. If you want to say something that happened yesterday, you cannot say, you cannot use present verb. You must use past verb. For example, I went there. You cannot say, I go there. I went there, because you're talking about an action that took place in the past. Verb is very important part of speech, and sometimes you just say one word and this is the whole sentence. And what is a word? It's just a verb. For example, sit, stand. You say shut up, but you say sit because you think it is conveying the whole message. These verbs have got certain features, like they take negative form. For example, he plays, he does not play, he is coming, he is not coming. So this negative form depends on the main verb tells you what sort of helping verb is going to be used. For example, playing, ing, tells you it should be is form. He is playing. And then these verbs, they take question form. He is playing, is he playing? Now we'll discuss these helping verbs. As I've already told you, they fall into two different classes. We call them primary auxiliaries and modals. First, primary auxiliaries. They can be used as main verbs as well as helping verbs. First, I'll use them as main verb. For example, he is a doctor. Is a main verb here. He has some books. Again, it's a main verb. But look at these sentences now. He is writing a letter and he has done his work. In these sentences, is and has are used as helping verbs because the main verbs are writing and done. These verbs have their past forms and present forms and can also be used in the future with the help of will or shall. Past form, for example, he's writing a letter, that is present form. He was writing a letter and he will be writing a letter. And he does his work, he did his work, and he will do his work. Now we'll move to the modals. First thing, they're not modals, they're modals, and the spelling is M-O-D-A-L. We use them to show ability. For example, can, could. I can run. He can talk for a long time. They're also used for possibility, how he may come. They can also be used for permission. May I come in? Yes, you may come in. And they are very commonly used for obligation. Should. Should shows weak and mild obligation. This simply means if you do something, it is good, and if you don't do that thing, it is bad. For example, you should help the poor. And then there is a strong obligation must. They have got the features like they also take negative form, positive form, question forms. For example, you must work hard, you must not work hard, must you work hard, you should go there, you should not go there, should you go there. And they do not take ing form, remember. They don't take s form like he goes. We can't use s with these modals. And then they don't change into past form with the help of d or ed. And they've got their short forms, contracted forms. For example, should not becomes shouldn't, might not becomes mightn't, must not becomes mustn't. Now we'll move to the concept that is adverb. Adverb means something which adds to the meaning of a verb. Look at the words like tomorrow, once, badly, there. These are all adverbs. Adverb is used, usually it is used to qualify or add something to a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. First, adding something to a verb. He walked slowly. Slowly and walk, Slowly is a word which is telling us something about walk. And he is very tall. Very is being used with tall, that is an adjective. And then we use an adverb with other adverbs. For example, he behaved quite fairly. Fairly is adverb and quite is also an adverb. There are adverbs like adverbs of manner, place and time. You should know what to use, where to use. This is important. And you should know how an adverb changes into some other part of speech. For example, some adverbs, they look like adjectives, but they are not. Similarly, some adjectives, they look like adverbs, but they are not adverbs. For example, costly. Costly looks like, for example, happily, quickly, but costly is an adjective that means expensive. And then there are some people who might say fastly. Fastly is no word at all. There are different types of adverbs like manner, place, time, frequency, sentence, degree. But usually what we use in daily life, the manner, place, time, frequency and degree. There are different other types, relative, interrogative, but you should know which adverb is to be used in a sentence and where it is going to be used. For example, if you say he walks slowly, that's fine. But if you say he slowly walks, it is something like Urdu sentence being changed into English. It's important to know where to use an adverb. Similarly, there are some adverbs which have got which show some sort of negative quality. Negative does not mean something negative in that sense, in real sense. But what I want to say, the verbs like hardly, never, seldom, if you use them in the beginning of a sentence, then the verb has to be used in a bit different way. For example, look at these. One of these, never. He never talks to me. But if you use never in the beginning, you will say never does he talk to me. Got the idea? And then adverbs too have got comparative and superlative forms, doing the thing easily, more easily, quickly, and more quickly, most quickly. And then there are some irregular adverbs. Well, it takes better as comparative form and best superlative form, comparative degree. Badly, worse, and worst. Now we move to another concept, that is conjunction. Conjunction is used to connect sentences or to connect phrases and clauses. In our life, we keep on using the words, Urdu words, ya or something like this. In English too, we use the words like and, but, therefore, all these things. But you should know that in English, for example, if you say, I wanted to watch a match and I went to the stadium. These are two free sentences, but we join them with the help of a conjunction called and. But if you look at the idea, although I was not feeling well, after this you cannot use full stop. You must put a comma because the sentence is not complete. Although I was not feeling well, comma, yet I went to my office. Similarly, I did not want to meet him, therefore I did not go to the party. What I want to say, sometimes a conjunction that is called subordinating conjunction, we have to use them very carefully. What Pakistani people do, they start sentence with because, and without completing the sentence, they put a full stop. For example, because I was not feeling well, full stop. That is not the idea. You must give complete sense. And the last idea is an interjection. Interjection is a word such as gosh, ouch, wow, which shows an emotional state or attitude such as happiness, delight, surprise, shock. And we use the words like alas, hurrah. And after using these things in speech, you should use an exclamation mark. In writing, there must be exclamation mark. In speech, you must have high tone. Alas, or hurrah, we won the match. When you say alas, tone has to be a bit low. We use these interjections in our language too, and sometimes we pronounce English ones with the help of Urdu rules. Look at one commonly used OH. In English, no word ends with H, ha sound, but we say oh my god. That is wrong, it is oh my god. So that is all. I hope you learned quite a few new things, and I hope if you revise all these things and if you practice them, you will never forget these ideas, because that is very important. And if you want to become a good writer of English, if you want to become a good speaker of English, you should know parts of speech, you should know where to use, you should know how to use them. Thank you very much. That is all from my side. Assalamu alaikum and welcome, dear learners, to this program on English tenses. Tense is a word which has been derived from a Latin word tempus, which means time. This means tense is used to show at what time an action took place. We make use of verb to show the time of an event. For example, he went, he goes, he will go. There are 12 tenses in English. We can arrange them in 3 major time classes. These are present, past, and future. We have 4 different tenses under each time concept. And today we'll be dealing with present simple or present indefinite tense. First, we'll be doing the form and then function. This means first we'll see what formula we follow to construct a sentence in this tense, and second, why we use this tense. So formula first. It is subject, verb, object. SVO. And you know that is a very basic structure of English sentence. Examples: Sami writes a letter. Sami is S, that is subject, writes main verb, and a letter, that is object. I boil an egg. She teaches in this school. And here you must remember the pronunciation of teaches. Many of us pronounce the word teach, reads, judges, that is teaches, reaches, judges. This means any verb which ends with ja sound or ja sound, it is pronounced as teaches and judges in the present simple tense. So the formula is quite easy. This means when you use third person, he, she, somebody's name, Imran, Ali, Sarah, Ahmed, we use S or ES with the main verb. For example, you say Sami writes a letter. You cannot say Sami write a letter, that is wrong. But you will say I write a letter, and you write a letter, and they write a letter. Now, how to change this into negative form? Quite easy. That is, Sami does not write a letter. Now here you will not write writes a letter because you're using does. And you know with does, that is ES. This ES basically was attached to writes. But when we use does, that writes changes into write. So Sami does not write a letter. I do not boil an egg. Quite easy, I believe. Now we'll move to interrogative, like how to form a question. Again, quite easy. If you can construct a sentence in positive sense and then negative, it's easy to change that into interrogative form. For example, look at the sentence that is a positive form. Sami writes a letter. And negative, Sami does not write a letter. You will simply, what you do, you will bring does to the beginning. And you will say does before Sami and simply say, does Sami write a letter? And then put a question form. In writing, there must be question mark. In speech, there is rising tone. Does Sami write a letter? Do you pluck flower? Do I boil an egg? I hope you're enjoying this idea. Now we can move to the function, how we use a tense. A tense is not simply formula. It is used in society. People interact with each other each day and they use these tenses for some reason. So we use this tense for habit to talk about a habitual action. For example, the child drinks milk every day. Imran plays football in the evening. I get up early in the morning. In these three sentences, you can see these are habits. The child drinks milk and Imran plays in the evening, and I get up in the morning. We can also use this tense to talk about general truth. I hope you know general truth. The sun rises in the east, isn't it? Birds fly, and some birds don't fly. We also use this tense to talk about a future event. When does the college open? We leave for Lahore tomorrow. And sometimes, there are different actions taking place at the same time or one after the other. In such a situation, we also use this tense. For example, first, I take a bowl and break 2 eggs. Then, I beat the eggs for a bout. First I take. Take is a verb, a bowl, and break, second verb, and then I beat, and so on. In this way, there are different actions or series of action, one after the other. And you must have watched different programs on TV on recipes or cooking formulas, how to cook a dish, how to prepare a certain dish. And you must have seen the expert on television giving instruction. In your language, Urdu even, they are in present simple tense. We use this tense to talk about such things. For example, first of all, scratch the number, then feed the number to the mobile phone. After that, press this button and then do that. This is giving instructions. Present simple tense is very commonly used in English, but unluckily, this happens to be one of difficult tenses for foreign learners because of S and ES mainly. Very easy, remember, if it is a positive sentence and you're using he, she or somebody's name, singular noun, then you should use S or ES with the verb. He writes. If you say he write, that is wrong. And in negative, you use does with singular name or with he or she or it. For example, he does not. You cannot say he do not. Otherwise, this tense is quite easy. I hope you understand the idea of the form and the function. Now we'll move to the second tense, that is present continuous or present progressive tense. The form, I would say, is even easier. That is SVO, but what comes here is helping verb. Helping, to help somebody. In English, there are certain verbs which are used to help main verbs, and these are is or have, has, or what, do, does. I'm going to give you some examples. Salman is drinking milk. Now we can't say Salman drinking milk because ing form is there, so there must be is, am, or are. And since we are using Salman, a single person, we will use is. I am writing a letter. Now is changes into am because I. Salman changes into I. And you are eating an apple. Now because of you, we use are. But helping verb is, am, are. After this is, am, are, we use ing form of any main verb that you use. Here we don't have do, does. We simply use not. How? Salman is drinking milk. Salman is not drinking milk. I am writing a letter. I am not writing a letter. You are eating an apple. You are not eating an apple. And question, reverse. Simply take is, am, are, what we call helping verbs, to the beginning of the sentence. Salman is drinking milk. This is positive sentence. And how to change this into question form? Is Salman drinking milk? Now the function. We use the present progressive tense to talk about temporary actions and situations that are going on around us. For example, hurry up, we're waiting for you. They're playing chess. You can see, madam, you're calling somebody and saying, we're waiting for you. This is a situation around you. We also use this tense to talk about what is going on around a particular time that we are thinking of. Something that you imagine. For example, at 7 in the morning, when the post comes, I'm usually having breakfast. Got the idea? We also use the present progressive tense to talk about developing or changing situations, even if these are very long lasting. For example, the child's getting bigger every day. Imagine the process of child getting bigger. You can't observe in one go. That's a long process, but we use present continuous tense. And the climate is getting warmer. The universe is expanding. One more example, man is growing smaller in height. We also use this tense to talk about future. Strange, isn't it? We are using present tense to talk about future. How? We are leaving for Lahore tomorrow. Come and see us next week if you are passing through London. We are playing a match next month. Got the idea? And sometimes there are repeated actions. Around the moment of speaking, we use this tense for these actions. For example, why is he hitting the dog? And he's watching a lot of movies these days. Why is he complaining like this? Some verbs are not used in the progressive form. There we have to use a present simple tense. This is important. You must keep in mind English is a different language. It's not like Urdu. You can't use any verb in ing form you like. You must develop the sense of using these verbs. For example, you cannot say, I'm hating this. or I'm preferring this, or I'm realizing this, or I'm remembering this. That's something bad. You must use present simple tense there. For example, I remember he will come, he said, or I prefer this color over that color, or I love my father. This is the idea. Otherwise, if you talk about an action that is going on around you simply use ing form, and don't forget the formula. Use helping verb, either is or am or are. Otherwise, that's quite simple. Some of these words can't be used in ing form, as I've just said. You can see some of them on the board, on the screen in front of you, and try to use them in the right form. Try to avoid them using in the ing form. Note them down, practice them well, and I hope you can master these words. Now we move to the third tense, that is present perfect tense. Look at the combination present. Simply it means present tense, present time. Perfect, this means completion of an activity. Now what is a form? That is quite easy. We use subject, then we use verb in the third form, but before verb there must be have or has. And remember, present simple tense, with he, she, it we use what? S or es, she writes, he writes, and here we use has with he, she, it, and elsewhere we use have. For example, the man has taken lunch. If you say the man have taken, that is wrong. Then you should say the men have. Or if you say the man has take, that is wrong. The man has taken lunch. You have plucked a flower, and I have boiled an egg. And must not forget to pronounce the verbs correctly. Look at the verb, for example, plucked. You can't say plucked. This ed should be pronounced as t, plucked. And smashed. And what missed? I missed my mother last year when I was in the hostel. Now how to change this tense into negative? Very simple. Simply use not after has or have. The man has not taken lunch. You have not plucked a flower. I have not boiled an egg. And she has not posted the letter. Easy, isn't it? Now interrogative. That means question form. Very easy. Simply take has to the beginning of the sentence. For example, has the man taken lunch? And as I said earlier, if you're saying this thing, your tone must be high. You will say, has the man taken lunch? That is rising tone. And have you plucked a flower? Or have you eaten the eggs? Try this. It simply, depends on your practice, how you practice these things. And once you start speaking with your friends, with your cousins, and once you start writing, you will feel that they're quite easy. Now, we'll look at the function, why we use this tense. We use the present perfect tense to indicate completed activities in the immediate past, that is recent past. For example, Junaid has just finished his tea. Imagine Junaid completing this job, finishing his tea. I have just found him. We can also use this tense to talk about past actions whose time is not given and not definite. For example, have you read this book? Here we are not basically concerned with the time. We are concerned with the action of reading the book. We are asking somebody, have you read this book? And Shoaib has done his homework. This tense is also used to describe past events when we think more of their effect in the present than of the action itself. For example, you have eaten my lunch now. You know what is the effect? You've eaten my lunch. I'm angry and I'm hungry as well. Ahmed has cut his finger, and imagine the impact, the effect. He is still feeling pain. And if I say I've finished my work, simply means I can sit back. I can relax, now I'm free. We also use this tense to denote an action beginning at some point in the past and continuing up to the present moment. For example, I have known Jafar for a long time. If we say, I know Jafar for a long time, that is okay in Urdu language. But in English, you must use I have known Jafar for a long time, because this is something that started in the past and still continuing up to this time. The old man has lived in this house all his life, and I haven't seen Asif for several months. This tense can also be used for actions which occurred in the past, and that action could be repeated in the present. For example, I watched BBC many a time. And Iftikhar Arif has written many beautiful poems. Got the idea? An action being repeated and may continue. We also use this tense for habitual actions. Kashif has always helped me in trouble. Great. And I have never been late for work. Now we'll be doing the last tense for this present time, that is present perfect continuous or progressive tense. Here, if you look at the combination present perfect continuous, present means not past, neither past nor future, perfect means completion, and continuous means ing form, activity going on. This is an interesting tense, though a bit difficult for foreign learners. But anyhow, let's see the formula first. It is SVO. That means subject, verb, and object. But remember, subject, okay, verb is not easy here. We have to use has been and then the main verb in ing form, because the name of the tense is present perfect continuous. When you say perfect, means it should be have or has. Continuous, it means it must be ing form. And you know, we can't use ing form without using be or been or is mr. So here we use been. And one more thing which makes this tense a bit complicated, I would say interesting, that is the idea of since and for. How? Look at the formula SVO and the sentence, Saima has been cooking since morning. I'll repeat, Saima has been cooking since morning. Why has? Because Saima, we're talking about single person, we're talking about a girl. Saima has been cooking. And ing form because it is continuous. Since morning, because morning time is mentioned, we must use since. Saima has been cooking since morning. This simply means this action of cooking by Saima started in the morning and going on right now, and may enter future as well. Future means maybe she might finish after half an hour, after 10 minutes, after 1 hour. So this is the idea. Something started in the past, is going on right now, may continue in future. Some more examples. You have been talking for 1 hour. Here we are not saying since 1 hour, because we are not sure which 1 hour. When we are definite, we say since. For example, we say you've been talking since 1 o'clock, since 5 o'clock, but for 2 hours, for 3 hours. One more example, I have been boiling potatoes for 20 minutes. Again, not sure with 20 minutes. When we talk about definite time, we use since. Otherwise, we use for. Last example, she has been playing since morning. You know what we do? We usually change this tense into present continuous tense. We Pakistani, because we're used to the tense that is present continuous. For example, in Urdu we say Subah se barish ho rahi hai. Fine. But in English we can't say it is raining since morning. We must say it has been raining since morning. In other words, if you use since or for, you must use has been or have been. Now moving to its negative form, quite easy. Simply use not after has or have. For example, look at the positive sentence. Saima has been cooking since morning. Will simply change into Saima has not been cooking since morning. Some people confuse the use of not here. They might use after been. This is something very simple. We use not after has or have. Few more examples. You have not been talking for 1 hour. Interrogative. Quite easy. Drag has or have to the beginning of the sentence. The rest is same. Saima has not been cooking since morning. Changes into has Saima not been cooking since morning? And have you not been talking for 1 hour? And have I not been boiling potatoes for 20 minutes? And has she not been playing since morning? Now the function, I'm going to give you the function of this tense. That is not quite complicated. I've explained a few things already, but anyhow, let's do the function once again. We use the present perfect continuous tense to talk about an action which began at some time in the past. Remember? Sometime in the past and is still continuing. For example, the people have been cleaning the road since last Saturday. And this tense is also sometimes used for an action already finished. In such cases, the emphasis is on the continuity of the action in the past but have present results. For example, why are you wet, or why your clothes are wet? And the person says, I've been walking in the rain. His walking in the rain is over now, but the effect is still there. What is that? His clothes are wet. One more example. Why are you so tired? Well, I've been running for a long time. Got the idea? We can also use this tense to talk about repeated actions and events. I have been playing a lot of tennis these days. Sort of repetition, something that has been going on for some time. And we have been watching many interesting documentaries these days. So, dear learners, this is the idea of present tense. Remember, we have got 4 time concepts within this present tense. These are present simple tense, which makes use of the first form of verb and do and does. Then present continuous form, main verb with is, am, are. And then we have got what? Present perfect tense. Have, has, plus third form. And then we have got present perfect continuous tense, that is has been, have been, and then verb in the ing form, and then since or for. That is all. I hope you have learned quite a few new things, and I hope you practice them well as well to master the language. That's all for now. Allah Hafiz. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to this program on English tense. We use language each day, we talk to each other, we talk about our experiences, the things that we did, the things that we will do, our plans. In short, when we talk with each other, we give reference of time as well. In all languages, time is something very important. that is shown with the help of something, and in English that is verb that is used to show the time. Now this lecture is going to focus on time with regard to past tense. There are times: past time, present time, future time. And when we talk about past time, the verbs in English take different shapes to show that time. In this tense, there are 4 subtenses. These are past simple tense, past perfect tense, past continuous tense, and past perfect continuous tense. First, past simple or past indefinite tense. SVO. S means subject, V means verb, and O means object that is optional here. The sentences are: Asim wrote a letter, you plucked a flower, I boiled an egg. In these sentences, the verbs write, pluck, and boil, they change into wrote, plucked, and boiled to show that these actions took place in the past. Here you should be careful in pronouncing certain verbs, because although they add ed in the past form, they are not pronounced ed. They are pronounced t. For example, it is not plucked, it is plucked. And there are certain other verbs that you should pronounce carefully. The construction of positive sentences is quite easy. Simply change the verb into past form and add object if it is possible, if you need it. Now the problem is how to change this into negative form. Not difficult at all. Simply you have to add did, and in negative did not, but then the verb will change, go back into the first form, the base form. Now look at the first sentence, positive sentence. Asim wrote a letter. You know how you will change into negative form? Asim did not write a letter. And why write? Because did itself shows past tense. You did not pluck a flower. If you look at this did thing, it is the past form of do. And once you change do into did, that means from present to past, it is a shift. Then you cannot say wrote or plucked. This is, you did not pluck a flower. Pluck goes back to the same form, the base form, because of did. Question form, very easy. Bring did to the beginning. For example, did Asim write a letter? Did you pluck a flower? In writing, you must add a question mark at the end. And in speech, your tone should be high because it's a question. You're asking something. It is not a statement. Now the function. We use these tenses for some reason, and each tense is used for a certain reason. This tense is used, what's the logic? We use a past tense, the simple tense, to talk about many kinds of past events, short, quickly finished actions and happenings, longer situations, and repeated events. It is often used with adverbs of time. For example, the child broke the glass yesterday. Atif won the race last evening. I got up early in the morning. I spent all my life in Islamabad. Sometimes this tense is used without an adverb of time. In such cases, the time may be understood or indicated by the context. For example, Napoleon was defeated at Waterloo. I did not sleep well. I did not sleep well simply means you're talking about the last night. Peter learnt Urdu in Pakistan. And here, maybe the time is not important. It is the action of learning. Similarly, the past simple tense is also used for past habits. For example, Tosif studied for many hours every day. Shaila always carried an umbrella, and Adnan always came on time, showing some habit. We also use the past simple to refer to a series of actions taking place one after another. For example, the thief secretly entered the room, opened the locker, took all the precious things, and jumped out of the window. The simple past tense is common in storytelling, and when we are telling people about past events, in your life, you narrate things that happened to you, the things that you experienced. In such situations, you must use past tense. Look at the example. Once upon a time, there was a thirsty crow. He flew here and there in search of water. Finally, he found a pitcher of water and came down. Now we move to past continuous or past progressive tense. It's very easy. You simply need to add was or were depending on the subject. So the formula SVO, subject, verb, object. Sentence, Sajid was eating oranges. Here, eating, the base form is eat. Eating ing form is being used because of was. And was tells us it is a past time and past continuous, an action was going on. Second sentence, I was writing a letter and you were eating an egg. Negative, I think even easier. Sajid was not eating oranges. I was not writing a letter. You were not eating an egg. Now the question form, similarly quite easy. Simply drag was over to the beginning. For example, was Sajid eating oranges? Was I writing a letter? Were you eating an egg? And remember the tone. When you speak something, when you're saying something, your tone has to be high. And in writing, especially in examination, you must add a question mark. Now coming to the function, why we use this tense. We use a past continuous tense to talk about an action going on at some time in the past. The time of the action may or may not be indicated. For example, we were listening to the radio all evening. It was getting darker. The children were having fun all the day. The birds were flying all around yesterday. We use past continuous to talk about temporary actions and situations in the past. Kashif met me while I was buying some sweets. When I got home, I saw that water was running down the kitchen walls. I hope you're getting the idea using was, were, and then ing form. We also use a past continuous tense to talk about an action that was already going on when another action interrupted it. Sometimes you're doing something and suddenly something happens and you stop doing that thing. This is the idea. Few sentences. I was sleeping when someone knocked at the door. And can you guess what happened? I got up. They were having a cup of tea when the telephone rang. Raja was doing his homework when his friend called him. This tense is used to talk about a series of actions going on at the same time in the past. For example, when I entered the room, Sana was beating Kami, Kami was weeping, and Shani was laughing at Kami. Some verbs are not used. Remember, we don't use these verbs in continuous form because they look odd. For example, the food tasted good. We can't say the food was tasting good. And I liked the picture. We can't say I was liking the picture. In similar fashion, we have got the words like doubt, know, love, hate, prefer, realize, recognize, which can't be used in ing form. If you use them in ing form, they look bad. Sometimes they're wrong. They're not used in this way. That's why you should be very clear in knowing what words should be avoided in this regard. Moving to the next tense, that is past perfect tense. The past perfect tense expresses an action in the past before another action in the past. This is the past in the past. For example, you had studied English before you moved to New York. Had you studied English before you moved to New York? You had not studied English before you moved to New York. The past perfect expresses the idea that something occurred before another action in the past. It can also show that something happened before a specific time in the past. I had never seen such a beautiful beach before I went to Thailand. Had never seen shows that you're going to have another part of the sentence with simple past tense. Now the word Thailand, in Urdu it is pronounced as Thailand. That's okay in Urdu, but in English it is Thailand. People from Thailand are called Thai people, not Thai people. In Urdu it's okay. Similarly, the words like Thompson and Thomas and Anthony, not Anthony Quinn, it is Anthony Quinn. Because while speaking English, we should know how to pronounce these things in English. One more example. Tony knew Islamabad so well because he had visited the city several times. Now, question form. Had Sana ever studied Chinese before she moved to China? She only understood the movie because she had read the book. Now, the idea is something happened in the past and something happened even before that thing. It is like past in the past. Few more examples. Christine had never been to an opera before last night. We were not able to get a hotel room because we had not booked in advance. We use a past perfect to show that something started in the past and continued up until another action in the past. For example, we had that car for 10 years before it broke down. And here don't be confused because of had. First had is the helping verb and the second is the main verb. That simply means possessed. One more example. By the time Alex finished his studies, he had been in London for over 8 years. They felt bad about selling the house because they had owned it for more than 40 years. Unlike with the present perfect, it is possible to use specific time words or phrases with the past perfect. Although this is possible, it is usually not necessary. Usually we use past perfect tense to talk about an event which happened in the past, and before this event there was another action that took place earlier. Now what you should do, you should have this idea that usually we should not use this past perfect tense in isolation. There has to be one more clause with simple past tense. I'll explain. The patient had died before the doctor came. Now look at this sentence. The patient had died. This is action 1. Before the doctor came, action 2. Now if I ask you which action took place first, you will say definitely the death of the patient died. This means the action that took place first took had plus third form, and the other one took simple past tense. I'll give you 2 to 3 more examples. Number 1, the train had left before my father reached the station, and the thief had run away before the police reached. Now action in the past before another action. This is the whole idea. Past perfect continuous tense. Look at the composition. Past perfect continuous. Formula: subject, verb, object. And here the most complicated thing is the verb part. You have to use had plus been or been, and then the main verb in ing form, and then the object. It simply means it is in the past, time is past, perfect. There has to be have, has, or had, but since we are dealing with past, there should be only one option, that is had. Continuous. Interesting. How can we have and ing form together? It is simple. We have got had and the next verb is in ing form. But remember, since this is past perfect continuous, there has to be since or for. In Urdu, it is okay if you say it is raining since morning or it was raining since morning. In English, it has to be systematically done. Past perfect continuous, it is in the past, and perfect simply means we have to use had. We can't use have or has because we're not talking about present time. Continuous simply means the verb is going to be in ing form, and when we use verb in ing form, we cannot use without using is, am, are, was, were. Therefore, in this tense, we have got been. Been is another shape, another form of be. The past perfect continuous is used for an action that began before a certain point in the past and continued up to that time. Or we use this tense to talk about longer actions or situations which had continued up to the past moment that we are thinking about. Example, you had been waiting there for more than 2 hours when she finally arrived. Look, this tense can't be used in Urdu in the same way. In Urdu, we use the same tense without since or for. For example, we say, बारिश हो रही थी, सुबह से बारिश हो रही थी, something like this. बारिश हो रही है, that is in present. But in English, if we say, this is raining since morning or it was raining since morning, that is going to be wrong. If you say, it was raining since morning, it simply means you're confusing past continuous with past perfect continuous. You should say, it had been raining since morning. Next example, had you been waiting there for more than 2 hours when she finally arrived? This is basically the same sentence that we used earlier, but it is in the question form. We use a past perfect continuous to show that something started in the past and continued until another time in the past. They had been talking for over an hour before Tony arrived. She had been working at that company for 5 years when it went out of business. How long had you been waiting to get on the bus? Mike wanted to sit down because he had been standing all day at work. Getting the idea? Something going on for a long time, and then something happened which stopped this thing maybe. James had been teaching at the university for more than a year before he left for Asia. So what was the cause for his leaving the job? It was leaving for Asia. How long had you been studying Turkish before you moved to Ankara? I had not been studying Turkish very long. Using the past perfect continuous before another action in the past is a good way to show cause and effect. Examples: Jason was tired because he had been jogging. Sam gained weight because he had been overeating. Kamran failed the final test because he had not been attending the class. Now there is a question about using past continuous and past perfect continuous. If you do not include a duration such as for 5 minutes, for 2 weeks, or since Friday, many English speakers choose to use the past continuous rather than the past perfect continuous. Be careful because this can change the meaning of the sentence. Past continuous emphasizes interrupted actions, whereas perfect continuous emphasizes a duration of time before something in the past. Look at these two examples. He was tired because he was exercising so hard. This sentence emphasizes that he was tired because he was exercising at that exact moment. Second sentence, he was tired because he had been exercising so hard. This sentence emphasizes that he was tired because he had been exercising over a period of time, It is possible that he was still exercising at that moment or that he had just finished. So, dear learner, this is the whole idea about these tenses in the past. Sometimes you use these tenses all together in one composition, or while you're talking to somebody, you're narrating some event, you use past perfect tense, you use past perfect continuous tense, you use past simple tense, past continuous tense. But what is more important is simply developing the sense where we can use past continuous tense, where to use past perfect tense, all these things. And if you practice well, you keep on writing the things, you read newspapers, you listen to the news in English, you will develop all the sense. And hope this lecture is going to help you a lot in your studies and examination. Thank you very much, and that's all from my side. Goodbye and Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum, dear learners, and welcome to this program on tenses. Each day we use language and we talk about time. We say we did something, we will do something, we are going to do something. This simply means when we use language, we use time factor as well. This lecture is based on the future tense. Under this tense, we will be dealing with simple tense, continuous tense, perfect tense, and perfect continuous tense. First of all, future simple tense or future indefinite tense. Ready? Great. Right then. First of form. SVO. S means subject. Verb. It is a first form with will or shall, and then object if it is necessary. Examples. Hassan will peel a potato. You will eat it now. I will boil an egg. She will post the letter. Pakistan will win the match. Now negative, that is quite easy. Simply add not after will or shall. Examples. Hassan will not peel a potato. You will not eat it now. I will not boil an egg. She will not post the letter. Pakistan will not win the match. And then interrogative, quite easy. Simply bring will or shall to the beginning and the rest is same. Same examples I'm going to repeat in question form. Will Hassan peel a potato? Will you eat it now? Will or shall I boil an egg? Will she post a letter? Will Pakistan win the match? Now let's do the function. It's very important to know the function of a tense because by knowing it we know the reason why we use this tense. So the future simple tense is used for an action that has still to take place. For example, I shall or I will see him tomorrow. They will visit their village next month. Abraham will talk to Thomas on Saturday. Will the hunter kill the bird? The shepherd will not sell his lambs. This tense is also used to refer to an action that is not pre-planned and that speaker has just now decided to do something. On the other hand, an action that is already planned takes going to. You should be clear about the difference between going to and will. Simply speaking, will is used when you decide right now, and going to is pre-planned. Now listen to the following dialogue carefully between a mother and her son, and the idea of going to and will be quite clear.
Where are you going, Ahmed?
I am going to the market.
Why? I'm going to buy some books.
And after that?
I'm going to visit Asad.
But there is no sugar left at home. Who will bring that?
Okay, I'll bring that then.
What will you do after meeting Asad?
We are going to play a match this evening, in fact.
But I hope you know your uncle is coming this evening.
Oh no, I had forgotten that. Right then, I will come back early and will not play the match.
Got the idea? That's quite simple. We use will for something that is not within our control and that will take place whether we like it or not. For example, it will be Sunday tomorrow. Sultan will be 50 next year. The child will become a great sportsman when he grows up. We use this tense to order things. For example, I'll have a cup of coffee and Mr. Dean will have a glass of juice. Will is also used in offers and invitations. For example, will you attend my birthday party? Will you take a cup of tea? And then will is also used to indicate insistent habits. In conversation, it is then emphasized. Your tone should be high. If you will have arguments wherever you go, people will not like to talk to you. Why will he tell lies? One more example. He will not brush his teeth before he goes to bed. We use will or shall to express conditional ideas when we say that what will happen if something else happens. For example, if it rains, the match will be cancelled. The match will be cancelled if it rains. This simply means you can bring this will clause to the beginning as well. Predictions can be used as a way of giving orders instead of telling somebody to do something. The speaker just says firmly that it will happen. It is common in military style orders. For example, the army will attack at dawn. You will start work at 6 o'clock sharp. We can also use will you to tell people to do things. Note that will you is used with firm instructions or orders but not requests. Will you give me this book lying on the table? Will you be quiet, please? Make me a cup of coffee, will you? We also use will for threats and promises. For example, I'll hit you if you do that again. Next example, you will suffer for this. One more example, I promise I won't smoke again. Then there's a question of shall and will, what negative forms they take. Well, will becomes won't, but don't confuse it with want, want. That is want, it is won't. And shall becomes shan't. In the first person of the future, shall and will are often used without a definite rule, but there are certain instances where the use of one instead of the other may sound strange to an Englishman. If we are determined to do something in the future, we can use will instead of shall in the first person and emphasize it in order to show our determination. Examples: I will win this medal. He won't talk to you again. I promise you I will help you in trouble. On the other hand, if a person wants someone else to do or not to do something, emphasis is given by using shall instead of will with the second and third persons. Examples: You shall work hard. The enemy shan't pass. They shall not escape. Shall also has other meanings. We can use it in offers and suggestions. For example, shall I open the window as it is too hot inside? Shall we all go for a walk? One more example, shall I make a cup of tea? Now let's do future progressive tense or future continuous tense. The same formula, first the form and then function. Form is S, that is subject, and then will or shall plus be and then ing. and then object if required. Examples: Anthony will be doing his work. You will be picking apples in winter. I will be boiling eggs tonight. She will be buying an oven tomorrow. Pakistan will be playing Football World Cup in 2020, hopefully. Negative sentences. Same formula, but simply add not after will or shall, and the rest is same. Examples: Anthony will not be doing his work. You will not be picking apples in winter. I will not be boiling eggs tonight. And then interrogative, the question form. Will Anthony be doing his work? Will you be picking apples in winter? Will I be boiling eggs tonight? Now the function. The future continuous tense represents an action as going on at some time in future time. For example, I will be visiting him tomorrow. They will be buying a new house next month. Jacob will be talking to Thomas soon. Will his mother be making tea now? The lion will not be hunting anymore. And last example, our country will soon be utilizing solar energy. Then we use future progressive tense to refer to future events which are fixed or decided or which are expected to happen in the normal course of events. It does not suggest the idea of personal intentions. Examples: The hospital will be setting up a camp for malaria on Saturday. He will be telephoning you soon. The last example: I will be visiting you one of these days. This tense is also used to predict the present, to say what we think or guess is probably happening now. In daily life, we often say we guess what is going on somewhere, what a friend is doing or might be doing. Look at the example. Don't phone now, they will be having lunch now. Second example, I think we should not go to him. He must be discussing his case with the doctor. The future progressive can also be used to make polite inquiries about people's plans. By using this tense to ask, "What have you already decided?" the speaker shows that he does not want to influence the listener's intentions. Compare. Will you be staying this evening? It's a very polite inquiry, suggesting, I simply want to know your plans. Now compare this with this sentence. Are you going to stay this evening? It is for pressing for a decision. And will you stay this evening? It is a request or order. Now we move to future perfect tense. Future perfect simply means will, shall, and the use of have. We use the future perfect tense to say that something will be completed, finished, or achieved by a certain time. For example, Sarmad will have completed his degree by the end of June. This simply means before the June ends. The boy will have written the story by Saturday. By next Friday, we will have been in Islamabad for 5 years. In the last example, he will have left the city before you go to see him. The construction of this tense is quite easy. Remember, you have to use will or shall and then have. That is the base form, not has. And after have, it is always a third form. And usually there is time frame given. By, we use by before, things like that. I will have read this novel by tomorrow. And how to change into negative? That is quite easy. You have to use not after will, and the rest of the sentence is same. Examples. Sarmad will not have completed his degree by the end of June. The boy will not have written the story by Saturday. The man will not have closed his shop by 11 p.m. And I believe you can make interrogative sentences now by yourself. They're quite easy. Apply the same formula, bringing will to the beginning. We can also use will have to predict the present, that is, to say what we think or guess has probably happened. For example, it is no use phoning. He will have left by now. Got the idea? I'll repeat this. It is no use phoning. He will have left by now. You're guessing. Second example. What is the point of going to the market now? All the shops will have been closed now. That is all about future perfect tense. Now we move to future perfect continuous tense. Future perfect continuous has two different forms: will have been doing and be going to have been doing. Unlike simple future forms, future perfect continuous forms are usually interchangeable. Look at the form. We use will have been plus present participle, that is subject, verb, object. Subject, for example, you, and verb will have been waiting, ing form, and then object if required. Examples. You will have been waiting for more than 2 hours when her plane finally arrives. Second example. Will you have been waiting for more than 2 hours when her plane finally arrives? You will not have been waiting for more than 2 hours when her plane finally arrives. As I said, we also use its tense with be going to. Look at examples. You are going to have been waiting for more than 2 hours when her plane finally arrives. Are you going to have been waiting for more than 2 hours when her plane finally arrives? You are not going to have been waiting for more than 2 hours when her plane finally arrives. But note, it is possible to use either will or be going to create the future perfect continuous with little or no difference in meaning. It simply means you can pick any one of them. We use a future perfect continuous to show that something will continue up until a particular event or time in the future. For 5 minutes, for 2 weeks, and since Friday are all durations which can be used with the future perfect continuous tense. Notice that this is related to the present perfect continuous and the past perfect continuous. However, with future perfect continuous, the duration stops. Remember, the duration stops at or before a reference point in the future. Look at some examples. They will have been talking for over an hour by the time Thomas arrives. She is going to have been working at that company for 3 years when it finally closes. James will have been teaching at the university for more than a year by the time he leaves for Pakistan. How long will you have been studying when you graduate? We are going to have been driving for over 3 days straight when we get to the port. Using the future perfect continuous before another action in the future is a good way to show cause and effect. Examples. Jason will be tired when he gets home because he will have been jogging for over an hour. Hashim's English will be perfect when he returns to Germany because he is going to have been studying English in the States for over 2 years. Now there is a question about using future continuous or future perfect continuous. If you do not include durations such as for 5 minutes, for 2 weeks, or since Friday, many English speakers choose to use the future continuous rather than the future perfect continuous. It simply means when we use since or for, we must use perfect continuous construction. In Urdu, we say हम शाम से इंतज़ार कर रहे हैं. But in English it is we have been waiting since evening. Have been. This construction is very important in English. Be careful because this can change the meaning of the sentence. Future continuous emphasizes interrupted actions, whereas future perfect continuous emphasizes duration of time before something in the future. Look at the examples and you will understand the difference between the two. He will be tired because he will be exercising so hard. This sentence emphasizes that he will be tired because he will be exercising at that exact moment in the future. And the second example is, he will be tired because he will have been exercising so hard. This construction is future perfect continuous. This sentence emphasizes that he will be tired because he will have been exercising for a period of time. It is possible that he will still be exercising at that moment or that he will just have finished. That's all for now, dear learners. Thank you and Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum, dear learners, and welcome to this program on active and passive voice. I believe this is a difficult topic for many of you, and many of you lose marks in examination because you don't know the rules of active and passive voice in English. And I believe after this class, you will be able to write the sentences correctly. So ready? Great. Let's start. Right. A verb is in the active voice when its form shows that the person or thing denoted by the subject does something. In other words, when the person or thing in the subject slot is a doer of an action, the verb is in the active voice. For example, Asad beats Sajid. The man buys a book. And this active voice is called active voice because a person denoted by the subject acts. On the other hand, a verb is in the passive voice when its form shows that something is done to the person or thing denoted by the subject. The passive voice is called passive voice because a person or thing denoted by the subject is not active but passive and suffers or receives some action. For example, Sajid is beaten by Asad. A book is bought by the man. When the verb is changed from the active voice to the passive voice, the object in the active voice becomes the subject in the passive voice and subject becomes the object. For example, the man, subject, chases the dog, that is object. Now see the passive voice. The dog becomes subject, is chased by the man, it becomes object. Here you should keep an important point in your mind. We cannot change a verb into a passive voice if it does not have an object. In other words, the verb of a sentence must contain an object for being able to give a passive construction. Such a verb is called a transitive verb, and the verb that does not need an object is called an intransitive verb. Here are 3 examples for each class. First, transitive verbs. The boy ate an apple. This means ate is a transitive verb because if you say the boy ate, message will not be clear. Second example, the butcher is slaughtering a cow. Here slaughtering is a transitive verb because it needs some object, what. He is slaughtering cow, hen, what. Third sentence, the child is drinking juice. Now, some examples of intransitive verbs. Sentence number 1. The bird is flying. Some of you might say, what if I say the bird is flying in the air? In the air is object? No. In the air is the adverb. So don't confuse these things. Second example, Faisal is sleeping. Sleeping does not need any object. Third example is the man is running. Because running does not need any object here. Now the question is, why do we use active voice or passive voice? Fine. The active voice is used when the agent, that is the doer of the action, is to be made prominent. For example, my father gave me this gift. Here I want to say that my father is more important than the gift. Hassan made this beautiful scenery and Quaid-e-Azam founded Pakistan. In this sentence, my focus, my concern is Quaid-e-Azam, not Pakistan. Allama Iqbal wrote beautiful poems in Urdu and Persian. I hope you're getting the idea. When we think the person is more important, then we bring him to the beginning. On the other hand, the passive form is used when the person or thing acted upon is to be made prominent. For example, Pakistan was founded by Quaid-e-Azam. Shikwa was written by Allama Iqbal. My house was constructed 25 years ago. The enemy was attacked from all sides. We generally use a passive form when the doer of an action is not clear in the active form. For example, my wallet has been stolen. This sentence means someone has stolen my wallet and I am not quite sure who the person is. Or in other words, I don't want to blame anybody. One more interesting example. The dais has been removed from the classroom. This means a speaker is not sure who has removed the dais from the classroom. And by the way, you should not pronounce the word dice, that is days. One more example, the plane has been hijacked. No one knows who the hijackers are. And we often use a passive form when the doer of an action in the active form is understood. For example, the thief has been arrested. Can you guess who arrested him? It is police, definitely. One more example. The house has been painted nicely. It is understood that it is the painters who have painted the house. It is understood that it is the painters who have painted the house. We generally use a passive form when the doer of an action in the active form is not important to mention. For example, Pakistan was founded in 1947. Here we are, for example, talking about Pakistan, not its founder. So here Pakistan is important than the person who founded it. Because the date 1947 is important here, not the person who founded the country. One more example, Minar-e-Pakistan was constructed in Lahore. In this sentence, the place where the Minar was constructed is more important. One more example, France was defeated badly. In this sentence, it is more important to mention how France was defeated. We often prefer to use passive structures when we want to talk about an action but are not interested in saying who or what does it or who did it. Passives without agents are common in academic and scientific writing for this reason. For example, this missile is fired from this range. One more example, those pyramids were built around 400 AD. And too many books have been written on dengue fever. We use passive form when it is not possible to construct an active form. For example, Salman was born in 1970. In some languages, interestingly, like Urdu, it is quite possible to say the same thing in the active form. For example, सलमान 1970 में पैदा हुआ. Due to different mother tongue rules, foreign learners of a language commit such types of mistakes, and that is why some Pakistani learners of English may say Salman born in 1970, because what they do, they simply convert Urdu sentence into English. And in Urdu it is active, but in English it must be passive. And sometimes it is not possible to use a passive form. In such situations, the active form is used. For example, the above sentence Salman 1970 में पैदा हुआ cannot be said in the passive form in Urdu language. You may find such sentences in English too. Sometimes passive form is used due to formality. The use of an active form in such situations may sound rude. For example, it is requested that I may please be granted 1 week leave. Its active form would be, you are requested to grant me a 1 week leave, or it is requested that you please grant me 1 week leave. That is why we prefer to use the passive voice, the passive structure in applications and letters. There are a few transitive verbs which, even in an active form, are sometimes used in passive sense. For example, these mangoes taste sour. This means when you eat these mangoes, you feel the sour taste. These mangoes taste sour, and please don't pronounce sour, that is wrong. It is sour. These flowers smell sweet. The poem reads well. My shoes are wearing out. And last sentence, suddenly the door opened. When verbs that take both a direct and an indirect object in the active voice are changed into the passive voice, either object may become the subject of the passive verb, while the other is retained and it is used after the passive form. For example, the mother will give a gift to Mahnur. It has got two possibilities in the passive voice. Number one, Mahnur will be given a gift by her mother, or a gift will be given to Mahnur by her mother. Second example, Mohsin teaches us grammar. It too has got two possibilities. We are taught grammar by Mohsin, or grammar is taught to us by Mohsin. Now the question is how to use passive voice. The structure of a passive voice totally depends on the structure of its passive form. This means the passive form follows the tense of the active form. For example, if the active form takes present perfect tense, passive will take the same tense. For example, the little boy has broken the toy. Its passive form is, the toy has been broken by the little boy. Remember that a passive construction always takes the third form of the verb. It's very important. That is why you should learn the verbs well, otherwise you may commit a mistake, though the structure of your sentence may be perfect. For example, many foreign learners of English may say, the ball was catched by me. Can you guess what is wrong here? The ball was catched by me, and I hope you can guess easily there is something wrong with the verb catch. It should be caught. Second example, the door was hit it hard. Again, problem with the verb. The bowler swung the ball amazingly, and so on. Swang. It should be swing, swung, swung. But people model it on drink, drank, drunk. This is wrong. Since the passive form depends on the active form, you must be careful in converting it. What I want to say is, if the active form is in the present tense, its passive form must also be in the present tense. Similarly, if the active form is in the future tense, its passive form will be in the same tense, and so on. For example, Shahzad has taken a lot of exercise today. That is, present perfect tense. And the passive form is, a lot of exercise has been taken by Shahzad today. Second example, my friend always organizes such programs. Present simple tense. Passive voice, such programs are always organized by my friend. Third example, The madman chased the naughty boys. It is simple past tense. And how to change into passive voice? The naughty boys were chased by the madman. Now future tense. The postman will deliver the parcel today. It will change into as the parcel will be delivered by the postman today. As I have already said, the passive form heavily depends on the structure of the active form. You should know how to deal with the active forms that are in progressive form. For example, the kids are plucking flowers. When you change into passive form, you have to keep two things in mind. Number one, there must be something for ing, and then the verb will change in third form. And how we can do this? Flowers are being plucked by the kids. Second example, the young seagull was drinking water. Water was being drunk by the young seagull. My mother will be cooking tasty food this evening. Tasty food will be being cooked by my mother this evening. But I must tell you, this future continuous tense in the passive form is not usual. Rather, I would say it is quite unusual. Now coming to the modals. These modals should not change their form while changing them from the active voice to the passive voice. And I believe these modals should, could, may, might. They don't change their form simply because they never take different form. In such sentences too, it is a main verb that changes into the third form. For example, you should help this patient. And how to change into passive voice? As I've told you, should will not go into the past tense because it does not have any past tense. Rather, will change the main verb help into the past form. This patient should be helped by you. One more example. The police must chase a thief. And in this sentence, must is a modal and chase is a main verb. And how to change in passive voice? I hope you can do it, but I'll do it for you. The thief must be chased by the police. One more example. Fatima could sew a frock for you. Sew, S-E-W. It should be pronounced like S-O. So, S-O, S-E-W and S-O-W, they are all pronounced in the same way. They are homophones. I'll repeat the sentence. Fatima could sew a frock for you. In this sentence, could is a modal and sew is the main verb. Now take the passive form. A frock could be sewn for you by Fatima. Also remember that some tenses cannot be changed into the passive form, so don't force them to bend according to your wishes. These tenses are present perfect continuous. Example, Junaid has been baking cakes since morning. Has been baking and since. This means this is present perfect continuous tense and you can't change this into passive voice. Can you try? It's a challenge. I hope you can't do it. Second, past perfect continuous. Example, the baby deer had been wandering all around since noon when his mother returned home. This too can't be changed into passive voice. And the last, future perfect continuous. Example, my friends will have been waiting for me for a couple of hours at the station before I arrive. In short, present perfect continuous, past perfect continuous, and future perfect continuous, the sentences which take since or for, they can't be changed into passive voice. As regards future continuous tense, its passive form is not usual and the native speakers prefer using its active form. For example, he will be flying tomorrow. He will be eating a mango at this time. He will be taking his breakfast in the morning tomorrow. These sentences can't be changed into passive voice. Before I wind up this program, I would like to revise a few concepts for you so that you face no problems in this area. Number 1, transitive verb. It is a verb which needs an object. For example, make, eat, drink. In Urdu too, you have got many such verbs. Intransitive verb, a verb that does not need an object. For example, sleeping and talking, sitting, running. You've got similar verbs in Urdu too. And the agent, the doer of an action in the passive construction or in active even. For example, if I say the house was constructed by these men, these men are the agent, and usually this thing begins with by. Direct object, usually it refers to the thing. For example, my father gave me a gift. A gift is direct object. Indirect object, it usually refers to a person. And now I'm going to give you a sentence. In this sentence, you've got both these objects. My brother gave me a nice car. In this sentence, a nice car is the direct object and me is the indirect object. Dear learners, that is all about active and passive. If you pay attention to these rules, if you practice them well, I believe you won't commit any mistake in examination in future. And that is all from my side today. Thank you. Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum dear learners, and welcome to this program on direct and indirect speech. There are two main ways of reporting people's words, thoughts, beliefs, etc. Number one, direct speech. We can give the actual words that were said or that we imagine were said. This kind of structure is called direct speech. Remarks which are repeated are placed between inverted commas, and a comma or colon is placed immediately before the remark. For example, she said, "I'm not feeling well." Example 2, Saqib said, "It is very hot." Example 3, the child said to his mother, "I need some milk." The second way is indirect speech. We can make a speaker's words or thoughts part of our own sentence using conjunctions, for example that, and changing pronouns, tenses, and other words where necessary. This kind of structure is called indirect speech or reported speech. For example, she said that she was not feeling well. Saqib said that it was very hot. The child said to his mother that he needed some milk. There is no comma after saying indirect speech. That can usually be omitted after say and tell, but it should be kept after other verbs, for example, complain, explain, object, point out, protest, etc. Indirect speech is normally used when some conversation is reported verbally, though direct speech is sometimes employed here too to give a more dramatic effect. Now there are some rules which you should know to make use of direct indirect speech correctly. Change of situation. Words that are spoken or thought in one place by one person may be reported in another place at a different time and perhaps by a different person. Because of this, there are often grammatical differences between direct and indirect speech. These changes are often natural and logical. Indirect speech can be introduced by a verb in a present tense. He says that. And this is usual when we are A. Reporting a conversation that is still going on. B. Reading a letter and reporting what it says. C. Reading instructions and reporting them. D. Reporting a statement that someone makes very often. When the introductory verb is in a present, present perfect or future tense, we can report the direct speech without any change of tense. For example, Paul, phoning from the station, "I'm trying to get a taxi." Eliza, to Pamela, who is standing beside her, Paul says he is trying to get a taxi. Indirect speech is usually introduced by a verb in the past tense. Verbs in the direct speech have then to be changed into a corresponding past tense. For example, simple present, "I never eat meat," he explained. Indirect, he explained that he never ate meat. Present continuous, "I'm waiting for Anne," he said. Indirect, it will change into past continuous. He said that he was waiting for Anne. Present perfect, "I have found a flat," he said. Indirect speech, he said that he had found a flat. Present perfect continuous. He said, "I've been waiting for ages." This will change into past perfect continuous. He said that he had been waiting for ages. And then you have got simple past. "I took it home with me," she said. Indirect, she said that she had taken it home with her. Now you should know the use of shall, should, would. Shall normally becomes would in indirect speech. For example, "I shall meet Danish tomorrow," Hamid said. Hamid said that he would meet Danish the following day. But remember, if the sentence is reported by the original speaker, shall becomes either should or would, though would is more common. Similarly, should usually becomes would in indirect speech. "If I had the instruction manual, I should know what to do," Bill said. Now see how it changes into indirect speech. Bill said if he had instruction manual, he would know what to do. But if the sentence is reported by the original speaker, should becomes either would or remains unchanged, though would is more common. Now use of unreal past tenses, what we call subjunctives, in indirect speech. Unreal past tenses after wish, would rather, it is time, do not change. For example, "We wish we did not have to take exam," said the children. The children said that they wished they did not have to take exam. Number 2, Anne said, "Bill wants to go alone, but I would rather he went with a group." Anne said that Bill wanted to go alone, but that she would rather he went with a group. "It's time we began planning our holidays," John said. John said that it was time they began planning their holidays. Just like should, would, you should know the use of you ought to and you should. If you ought to, should is used to express advice rather than obligation, can be reported by advice plus object plus infinitive. You must can also express advice and be reported similarly. For example, "You ought to read instructions," said Anne. "Anne advised me to read instructions," or "Anne urged me to read the instructions," or "Anne want me to read the instructions." Second sentence, "You should read instructions," said Anne. and advised me or urged me or want me to read the instructions. Third, you must read instructions and said. And the same thing, advised, urged or want, and then the same thing, me to read the instructions. Now the use of this and these. This used in time expressions usually becomes that. For example, he said, she's becoming this week. She said that she was coming that week. Otherwise, this and that used as adjectives usually change to the. For example, he said, I bought these pearls for my mother. He said that he had bought the pearls for his mother. Now there is question of expressions of time and place in indirect speech. Adverbs and adverbial phrases of time change as follows. Today changes into that day, yesterday into the day before yesterday into 2 days before, tomorrow into the next day or the following day, the day after tomorrow changes into in 2 days' time, next week or next year become the following year or the following week. Last week becomes the previous week, last year the previous year. A year ago becomes a year before or the previous year. Examples, I'm going to give you a few. I saw her the day before yesterday, he said. He said that he had seen her 2 days before. I will do it tomorrow, he promised. He promised that he would do it the next day. But if the speech is made and reported on the same day, these time changes are not necessary. For example, at breakfast this morning he said, I'll be very busy today. At breakfast this morning he said that he would be very busy today. Logical adjustments are of course necessary if a speech is reported 1 or 2 days after it is made. For example, on Monday Jack said to Tom, I'm leaving the day after tomorrow. If Tom reports his speech the next day, that is Tuesday, he will probably say, Jack said he was leaving tomorrow. If he reports this speech on Wednesday, he will probably say, Jack said he was leaving today. Now, the question of here, H-E-R-E. Here can become there, but only when it is clear what place is meant. For example, at the station he said, I'll be here again tomorrow. He said that he would be there again the next day. Usually here has to be replaced by some phrase. For example, she said, you can sit here, Tom. This can be changed into, she told Tom that he could sit beside her. Now dealing with questions in indirect speech. When we change direct questions into indirect speech, the following changes are necessary. Tenses, pronouns, and adverbs of time and place change as in statements. The interrogative form of the verbs change to the affirmative form. The question mark is therefore omitted in indirect speech. For example, he said, where does John live? Will be changed into, he said where John lived. With affirmative verb questions, this change is obviously not necessary. For example, who lives next door? He said. He asked who lived next door. And what happened? He said. He asked what had happened. If there is no question word, if or whether must be used. Is anyone here? He asked. He asked if or whether anyone was there. Whether is neater if the question contains the conditional clause, as otherwise there would be two ifs. For example, if you get the job, will you move to London? Bill asked. Bill asked whether if I got the job, I would move to London. When a choice is required, we normally use whether in indirect speech. For example, shall I lock the car or leave it unlocked? He asked. He asked whether he should or he was to lock the car or leave it unlocked. Or, it is also possible, he asked whether to lock the car. As far as offers are concerned, they are changed into indirect speech in the following manner. He said, shall I bring you some tea? He offered to bring some tea, or he offered to bring me some tea. Similarly, suggestions should be changed into indirect speech in the following manner. Shall we meet at the theatre? He said. He suggested meeting at the theatre. Now, let's deal with the questions beginning with will you, would you, could you. These may be ordinary questions, but may be requests, invitations, or very occasionally commands. For example, he said, will you be there tomorrow? This is some sort of ordinary questions. It will change into like this. He asked if I would be there the next day. Second example, will you stand still? He shouted. He shouted at me to stand still. Or he ordered or he told me to stand still. Next example, would you like to live in New York? He asked. He asked if I would like to live in New York. One more example. Would you like a lift? Peter said. Peter offered me a lift. Now moving to indirect commands, requests, advice. Note that direct commands are usually expressed by imperatives, but that requests and advice can be expressed in a variety of ways. For example, if I were you, I would stop smoking, I said. I advised him to stop smoking. Why don't you take off your coat? He said. He advised me to take off my coat. Would you or could you show me your passport, please? He said. He asked me to show him my passport, or he asked me for my passport. Do sit down, said my host. My host asked or invited me to sit down. Please, please don't take any risks, said his wife. His wife begged him not to take any risks. Don't forget to call Tipu, said Mrs. Atif. Mrs. Atif reminded her husband to call Tipu. Go on, apply for the job, said Kamran. Kamran urged me or encouraged me to apply for the job. Use of let's. Let's usually expresses a suggestion and is reported by suggest in indirect speech. For example, he said, let's go to the station. He suggested going to the station, or he suggested that we should go to the station. Negative construction would be done in this manner. He said, let's not say anything about it till we hear the facts. He suggested not saying anything about it till they heard the facts. Or he suggested that they should not say anything till they heard the facts. But let's not used alone in answer to an affirmative suggestion is often reported by some phrase such as opposed the idea, or was against it, or we can also say objected. For example, let's sell the house, Tom said. Let's not, said his wife. Indirect speech. Tom suggested selling the house, but his wife was against it. Now coming to one very commonly used thing, that is exclamations. Exclamations usually become statements in indirect speech. The exclamation mark disappears. For example, he said, "What a dreadful idea!" He exclaimed that it was a dreadful idea. Other types of exclamations such as good, marvelous, splendid, heavens, oh, can be reported as follows, some of them. Good, he exclaimed. He gave an exclamation of pleasure or satisfaction. He said, "Curse this fog." It will change into, "He cursed the fog." One more example, he said, "Liar." He called me a liar. Similarly, he said, "Damn." This will change into, "He swore." Now we've got indirect speech of mixed type. Some examples. "I don't know the way, do you?" he asked. He said that he did not know the way and asked me if I did or if I knew it. One more example. "I can hardly hear the radio," he said. "Could you turn it up?" He said that he could hardly hear the radio and asked me to turn it up. "You'd better wear a coat. It's very cold out," he said. He advised me to wear a coat as it was very cold out. Please don't overeat. Remember that you have to travel a long way," Amir's mother said. Amir's mother begged him not to overeat, reminding him that he had to travel a long way. And the last example, "Let's shop on Friday. The supermarket will be very crowded on Saturday," he said. He suggested shopping on Friday, pointing out the supermarket would be very crowded on Saturday. So this brings to the end of our program. I hope you enjoyed and learned as well. Thank you and Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum dear learners, and welcome to this program on paragraph writing and letter writing. First, paragraph writing. A paragraph is a group of related sentences about a single topic. The topic of a paragraph is one and only one idea. A paragraph has three main parts. Number one, topic sentence. The first sentence in a paragraph is a sentence that names the topic and tells what the paragraph will explain about the topic. Number two, supporting sentences. The middle sentences in a paragraph are called supporting sentences. Supporting sentences give examples or other details about the topic. Number three, concluding sentence. The last sentence in a paragraph is called the concluding sentence. A concluding sentence often repeats the topic sentence in different words or summarizes the main points. A paragraph is like a cheeseburger sandwich, two pieces of bread, the topic and concluding sentences, enclosing the filling, the supporting sentences. Each paragraph that you write should also have a title. A title tells the topic of the paragraph in a few words. A title is short. It is not a complete sentence. It may be just one word. Here are some examples of the titles. Number 1, my classmates. Number 2, friendship. Number 3, a famous soccer player. As far as the topic sentence is concerned, it is the most important sentence in a paragraph, and it is called the topic sentence because it tells the reader what the topic of the paragraph is. In other words, it tells the reader what he or she is going to read about. The topic sentence is usually the first sentence in a paragraph. It is the top piece of bread in our paragraph cheeseburger sandwich. Now, topic sentence, if we discuss this thing, it too has got two parts. A topic sentence has a topic and a controlling idea. The topic part names the topic. The controlling idea part tells what the paragraph will say about the topic. It tells the reader this paragraph will discuss these things and only these things about the topic. Here are examples of other topic sentences. The topic in all three examples is the same, that is English. The controlling idea each time changes and says something different about English. From the controlling ideas, can you imagine what the rest of the paragraph will say about English? Number 1, English is constantly adding new words. Number 2, English borrows words from other languages. Number 3, English is necessary for many different jobs. Now, looking at the first two, they look similar, but they are not. For example, the first one, English is constantly adding new words. Here we should discuss the words which are formed within English. For example, television, televise. In this way, English keeps on adding words. But the second one, English borrows words from other languages. We discuss the words which English has taken or has been taking from other languages. For example, English has taken many words from Urdu. For example, khaki, parda, chutney, kebab. English similarly has taken words from Chinese, from Arabic, from other languages too. In the second idea, we will talk about such words which come from other languages. And the third is quite clear. English is necessary for many different jobs. Now the topic is same, that is English. Controlling idea each time changes. Some more examples of topic sentence and the paragraph. Like topic sentence, you have got good roommates have 4 characteristics. Now here the topic is good roommates, and then we have to talk about 4 qualities that they have. Similar fashion, we have got small cars have several advantages. Here the topic is small cars and controlling ideas have several advantages. Now I'm going to give you paragraphs, and at the end there are sentences which are like topic sentences. We have to choose one of them, the best one. Paragraph number 1. First, living in a foreign country helps you learn another language faster than studying it at school. Second, you can directly learn about the history, geography, and culture of a country. Third, you become a more tolerant person because you experience different ways of living. Fourth, living in a foreign country makes you appreciate your own country better. Now look at choices. A. Living in a foreign country helps you learn. Number 2. Everyone should live in a foreign country for a while. Number 3. Living in a foreign country has 4 benefits. Now if you look at all these 3 options, you will see the first one, living in a foreign country helps you learn. It is a general idea. It does not tell us what and how it helps to learn. Number 2, everyone should live in a foreign country for a while. This is some sort of suggestion which we don't find in the paragraph, so this should be also excluded. Third option, living in a foreign country has 4 benefits. Yes, that is the right option, because if you look at paragraph, you have the options first, second, third, and fourth. This is the idea of topic sentence. Paragraph number 2. Some colleges and universities in the United States are private. Private colleges and universities do not get money from taxes. So, they are usually more expensive. Other colleges and universities are public, that is, the citizens of each state pay some of the costs through their taxes. As a result, public colleges are cheaper for students to attend. No matter which type of college you attend, public or private, you can get a good education. Now let's see the options. A. There are two main types of colleges and universities in United States. Number 2. Public colleges and universities get money from taxes. Number 3. There are many colleges and universities in the United States. Looking at all of them closely, we'll see number 1, that is, there are two main types of colleges and universities in the United States seem to be the best option, because here we are discussing about two main classes of these educational institutions. These are private and public. Second option, that is B. Public colleges and universities get money from taxes. In fact, we are not dealing with the idea how these colleges and universities get money. We are talking about two major types. So B should be, again, it should be rejected, excluded. C. There are many colleges and universities in the United States. The paragraph does not discuss this idea. It discusses that there are two main types of colleges and universities in the US. Paragraph number 3. This time I'm going to read the options first, the topic sentences, and then the paragraph. A. Small colleges are friendlier than large universities. B. There are several reasons for attending a small college instead of a large university. C. You can get an excellent education at a small college. Now the paragraph. One reason for choosing a small college is that classes are small. The average class in a small college is 20 students. Another reason is that it is easy to meet professors. Professors in small colleges have time to help students and are usually happy to do so. In addition, small colleges are friendly, so new students make friends quickly. For these three reasons, small colleges are better than large universities for many students. And I believe now you have got the idea which one is the best option. It is, for example, A. Small colleges are friendlier than large universities. It is discussing just one aspect, that is, they are friendlier, and paragraph includes a lot more. B. There are several reasons for attending a small college instead of a large university. It seems to be the best option, because C, again, it deals with excellent education. That is not the main concern of this paragraph. Now we'll move to the other aspect, that is concluding sentence. You've got the idea of writing topic sentence. Now you should know how to conclude your paragraph. I'm going to give you paragraphs, and then there are options, and we'll discuss all of them one by one. Paragraph number 1. There are two reasons I love big cities. First of all, big cities are alive 24/7. That is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can go shopping, see a movie, exercise at a gym, get something to eat, or go roller skating at any time of the day or night. Second, I love big cities because of their anonymity. You can be completely invisible in big cities. No one watches your comings and goings. Neighbors don't bother you as long as you don't bother them. You can stay out all night or stay home all day, and no one cares. Options. A. To sum up, I love big cities because you can be independent. We can't take this option because it discusses just one aspect, that is independence. Option B. In short, big cities attract me because there are so many things to do. seems to be reasonable, but so many things. This does not tell which are those things. Let's see number 3. In brief, I like big cities because of their energy and anonymity. Yes, that's the best option. Why? In the paragraph you see you can go to shopping, see a movie, exercise at gym. That all is about energy. And the second, like people don't bother you, they don't know who you are, they don't disturb you. That is anonymity. Nobody knows you. So option C is the best option. Paragraph 2. There are 2 reasons I hate big cities. First of all, big cities are full of noise 24/7. You can hear horns, honking, traffic roaring, music blaring, and people talking all hours of the day and night. It is never quiet in a big city. Second, I hate big cities because of their anonymity. No one knows or cares about you. Neighbors who have lived next door to each other for many years don't even know each other's names. You can be very lonely in a big city. Options. A. In brief, big cities are noisy, lonely places to live. Seems to be the best option, I think. Look at B. In conclusion, I prefer to live in a small town where it is quieter and people are friendlier. No way, because we're not dealing with small towns. It is not a comparison. It is just about big cities. C. Also, big cities have a lot of crime. No, paragraph does not discuss. It does not even mention the word crime. Therefore, the best option is A. And dear learners, now we'll move to one more aspect of a paragraph that is very important. That is unity. When you write something, you write on particular thing and you cannot deviate. For example, if you're writing an essay on my dog, you cannot include your cow. For example, if you're writing an essay on, let's say, your best friend, you cannot talk about computers or anything else. This simply means a paragraph must have unity. It must discuss one idea and only one idea. Now, I'm going to give you paragraphs, and in these paragraphs, there is what is happening. Some sentences, like in each paragraph, 2 sentences break the rule of unity, and we'll find those sentences. Paragraph number 1, California. And do you know where it is? It is in the US. Write the paragraph. California is a state with every type of geography. Can you guess what it is? It is topic sentence. It has mountains where you can enjoy the winter sports of skiing, snowboarding, and snowshoeing. It has deserts where temperatures can reach 110 Fahrenheit, that is 43 centigrade, in the summer. It has beaches where you can surf, swim, and fish. It has forests where the world's tallest trees grow. Finally, it has farmland where a lot of the nation's fruits and vegetables grow. California also has Hollywood and Disneyland, which are world-famous centers of entertainment. California is a popular place to live, so many people move there every year. Indeed, California has it all: mountains, deserts, beaches, and farms. This paragraph seems to be very compact, very good paragraph, because it has got a proper topic sentence. That is, California is a state which every type of geography. Now here this topic, that is California, and is a state with every type of geography. It is a controlling idea. Simply means we are going to talk about geography, because if you look at concluding sentence, that is California has it all: mountains, deserts, beaches, and farms. They all belong to geography. They are geographical features. Now look at the sentences which break the rule of unity. Number 1, California also has Hollywood and Disneyland, which are world famous centers of entertainment. This sentence does not belong to geography because Hollywood and Disneyland, they are not the part of geography. Therefore, this sentence should be excluded. Number 2, California is a popular place to live, so many people move there every year. This too breaks the rule of unity because we are not talking about popularity of California, because we are talking about the geography of this state. Paragraph number 2. Nurses. A nurse should have at least 5 characteristics. First, he or she must be a caring person. He or she must have genuine concern about sick, injured, frightened people. Second, a nurse must be organized. If a nurse forgets to give a patient his or her medicine on time, the consequences can be very serious. Third, a nurse must be calm. He or she may have to make a life and death decision in an emergency, and a calm person makes better decisions than an excitable one. Doctors need to stay calm in emergency too. In addition, a nurse should be physically strong because nursing requires a lot of hard physical work. Finally, a nurse must be intelligent to learn subjects ranging from chemistry to psychology and to operate the complex machinery used in hospitals today. There is a shortage of nurses today, so they earn good salaries. In brief, nursing is a profession for people who are caring, organized, calm, strong, and smart. Once again, a beautiful paragraph includes everything, but 2 sentences break the rule of unity. Now, look at this paragraph. It discusses qualities of a good nurse. How many? 5 qualities. What's the topic? A nurse. Controlling idea should have at least 5 qualities or characteristics. And these all have been discussed in the paragraph. Which are they? He or she should be caring, number 1. Organized, number 2. Calm, number 3. Strong, number 4. And smart, number 5. But what is happening in the paragraph? Without us knowing, 2 sentences have entered the paragraph which are not relevant. Number 1. Doctors need to stay calm in emergency too. We're not dealing with doctors. We are not talking about doctors. We're talking about nurses. Number 2. There is a shortage of nurses today, so they earn good salaries. This sentence does not belong to the paragraph because it does not talk about the quality of a nurse. It is talking about salary, shortage of nurses. Therefore, these 2 sentences should be out of this paragraph. Now let's start letter writing. Each culture had its own way of organizing a letter and arranging it on a page. English-speaking people generally observe the following rules. Number 1. Put your own address at the top on the right. Addresses generally follow the rules of smallest first, that is, house number, then street, then town. Postcode and telephone number come last. Don't put your name with the address. Number 2. Put the date directly under the address. A common way to write the date is to put the number of the day followed by the month and year. For example, 15th July 2014. In business letters and formal letters, put the name and the address of the person you're writing to on the left side of the page, starting on the same level as the date or slightly below. Begin the letter with, for example, Dear Sir on the left. Common ways of addressing people are A. By first name, but it is informal, for example, Dear Penny. B. By title and surname, that is more formal, for example, Dear Miss Hopkins. Dear Sir or Dear Madam. Dear Madam, especially to somebody whose name is not known. Some people like to use a first name and surname, Dear Penny Hopkins, when writing to strangers or people that they do not know well. After Dear Sir, put a comma or nothing at all. Either leave an empty line after Dear Sir and start again on the left, or start again on the next line a few spaces from the left. Do the same for each paragraph. Letters which begin with Dear Sir or Dear Madam usually finish Yours faithfully. Formal letters which begin with the person's name usually finish Yours sincerely. Informal letters may finish, for example, Yours, See you, Love, etc. In formal letters, many people put a closing formula before Yours, especially when writing to people they know. Common expressions are with kind regards and with best wishes. Now, examples of letters. First, formal letter. On the right side, house number 458D, street number 105, sector G614, Islamabad, and below that you've got date 17th of June 2014. Left side, the person you're writing to, the principal, IMCB G63 Islamabad. Dear Sir, I would be grateful if you could send me information about the regulations for the admission to your school. Could you also tell me whether the school also arranges accommodation for the students? Yours faithfully, and then your name, for example, Adib Ahmed, and above your name, your signature. Now, informal letter. On the right side, house number 458D, street number 105, sector G614, Islamabad, and then date. Dear Ahmed and Ali, thanks a lot for a great weekend. We really enjoyed ourselves. Junaid and I were talking about the holidays. We thought it might be nice to go camping in Scotland for a couple of weeks. Are you interested? Let me know if you are, and we can talk about dates, etc. See you soon, I hope. Thanks again. Yours. And then your name, and then PS. That is, what you think after writing letter, that is post thoughts. Did I leave my Samsung charger behind in the bedroom? If so, do you think you can send it on? So with this, we come to the end of this program on paragraph writing and letter writing. Thank you and Allah Hafiz.